Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining. We appreciate you joining the conversation today. Um, it is Monday, December 11th, and welcome to What's the 411. Today, I am embarking upon another exclusive interview. This time, we are going to be speaking with Mr. Edward Tony Dooley. Um, and this conversation is definitely going to be one that everybody is going to want to make sure they're tapping into. Of course, we all remember Randall Kadeem Dooley. About 25 years ago, we heard the story. It broke the news. It was from here, and it really went far across the world. About the tragic death of Randall Dooley. And I remember, hearing of it. I was 18 at the time, 17 or 18, and I was looking at hearing everything and listening to the stories through the eyes of a big sister, a teenager, a big cousin. And now that I'm revisiting the story, I'm looking at it through different eyes. I have children of my own, and I'm looking at it, through the eyes of a mother. So of course, this conversation is definitely something that I am very interested in hearing, but I'm sure everybody else is interested in hearing. Most importantly, though, Mr. Dooley is here to share his story, and um, we are honored to be here to hear the story and to have you share on this platform. So first off, thank you very much for jumping on here with me and deciding to share your story with me and here on What's the 411. Um, but introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and what brought you to decide to share your story at this time.
Okay, my name is Edward Dooley. Most people call me Tony. I was I was born in Jamaica. I spent a lot of my young adulthood in Jamaica, and at around 24 years old, I met the mother of my first two children, first two boys, and after that relationship, two sons were born. I Shortly after they were born, I migrated to Canada with the intention of
I'm just going to stop you for one second. If you could, it seems like the phone is a little bit muffled. Maybe if you could pull back from the phone a bit so we can hear clearly.
okay, about that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I have had my earpod. My apologies. Technologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great now.
Okay. So back to what I was saying. I got my first child when I was 24 years old, and a year later, my second child, Randall, was born. My first child was given my name, so his name was Edward Anthony Dooley. I never called him Junior, I just called him Tigo. And Randall Kadeem Dooley, his younger brother, came into this world uh, just over a year later. One was born July, the other one was born August. Shortly after that, um, probably before Edward was two and Randall was just past one, probably about 18 months or something like that, I left and came to Canada. When I was in Canada, all my effort and my hopes and my dream was placed, like everything I was doing was for my two sons. So I just sort of wanted to get them to Canada to experience a different life from the one that they were living in Jamaica. I lived it too, so I know what the life was. So when I got in Canada, it took me a while to kind of sort myself out paper-wise. But in the meantime, while the paperwork was being sorted out, they were included on my sponsorship. So I was married to a young lady at the time, and we had a relationship that resulted in a marriage, and a sponsorship was done for me, and my two sons were included. All that took around 5 years to accomplish, but we got it accomplished. And while they were down there, I did everything I could as a father to make sure that financially I could assist them for and take care of their well-being. They were in the presence of their mother first, and then after a bit, probably about maybe a year or two later, they were went over to my sister, and they were living with my sister, and the mom had kind of moved on doing her thing. Um, After that, we we I still kept in touch, trying to make sure that financially and they were doing well. I continued doing what I was doing here, and just to basically survive, because if anybody understands the immigration system, when you're in Canada and you don't have documentation, you can't really work. So not being able to work, which it was illegal, I chose an option that I thought was least harmful, and so I did what I had to do. Um, I wasn't in any type of gangsterism lifestyle or anything like that. I was just a young man at the time, just trying to make some money. So with the ultimate goal of getting my kids up to Canada. So that's me in a nutshell, and an introduction to the early stages of my children's life. And I'm here to kind of open up and explain to people, because a lot have been said, and I've heard it myself, and it's hard to combat misinformation when, especially in a difficult situation like this. So this is one of the main reasons why I'm here, to enlighten people and open up about some things.
Yeah, so thank you for that, for everything. We're still hearing a little bit of a feedback, so if you can just hold the phone a little bit further away from your mouth, maybe, so that we can make sure that we're hearing everything clearly. Um, but no, we appreciate you coming on. It's really important that you are able to share your story and tell everybody, what was going on, because everybody definitely was wondering, and even still till now we do wonder. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of things that were said, a lot of interviews, and a lot of different news articles and broadcasts that were put out. And we would like to know what's facts from what's not facts, right? um, yeah. So talk to us about, when you found out that you were going to be a dad. How did that make you feel?
So when I found out that it wasn't a planned thing, right? And just to backtrack a little, I lost my father when I was 7 years old. He passed away. I don't know what ailment he passed away from, but in Jamaica at that time, if you don't have any physical, I guess, injuries, they don't do autopsy. So never knew what my father passed away from, but I just knew that this man I looked up to, I was just gone, extinguished out of my life. So it was rough growing up without a father, without a lead, and I was in a house filled with females. So I have four sisters, and I have two brothers, but my older brother didn't live with us, and I have a younger brother who lived with us, but he was the last one. So I sort of had to forge ahead of trying to become a male without much guidance from an older male. I eventually had a stepfather, but my stepfather was a hardworking man, and he was away from the home a lot, just like my mother. So I sort of made a bond with other young boys growing up in my area. And so once I came home from school, I would go out and play with the other young boys, and kind of took the lead from each other because we were, a lot of us, even though they had living fathers, their father wasn't around also. So we had that little group of us that kind of took the lead from each other, and that's how we kind of grew up. So when I had the opportunity and was blessed by God to have to get my first child, I was ecstatic. I was happy. I sort of didn't worry about how I'm gonna feed them. Those things were secondary. It's just the thought that yes, I'm getting a child. But I was also working at the time, so I was working in a hotel, and I was having a decent salary, and plus I had family members who in my family, like every brother or sisters are like a parent to each of the brother or sister's child. So in a sense, like I was overwhelmed, didn't really know what to do as a father, just know that I'm a father, and it's a learn as you go process. Right. So it was eye opening, you know. So I learned as I went along. I did the best that I could, and I showered um, my firstborn with all the love as a new doting father would do. Yeah. Then my second child came, and there was no difference. I showered him with the same amount of love. I spent the same amount of time with both of them because they were inseparable, and it's not hard to see that from a lot of the pictures that that circulated. Well, the lot of pictures that are circulating now is that you can see them together almost everywhere. So yes, I experienced that feeling of euphoria, happiness, pride. I experienced all of that, and I just knew that all my attention is supposed to be given to them. So I did that. Hello, hello.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. And so how was the relationship with their mom?
So the relationship with their mom was somewhat. There's good times and bad times, and there's times when And I like to explain this also that I was 24 years old. My mom was 16. So she was very young. And but at the time, we fell into that age of consent thing. So it wasn't a illegal situation. And her mom at first wasn't really pleased that she was pregnant, which was understandable. And but she warmed up to our relationship because she knew who I was and she knew the type of person I was. I had a good heart and I wanted to see the best happen for her daughter. But during that relationship, there's times when things became toxic. Sometimes it's my own fault for behaving a certain way because um, I was kind of doing that wild boy thing where I had several relationships going, and you could understand that brings some toxicity to the relationship because mom wasn't pleased about that. But I've always explained to any partner that I have ever been with is that when I choose you to be my personal partner, yes, I might stray here and there, might do some things here and there, but generally my love is at home. So yes, we have situations where we, had experiences that are not really pleasant looking back at it, all right? But my baby mother at the time was a person that I truly did love and truly did care about. So sometimes some behavior stems out of jealousy. I'm jealous about something or something I see or something I hear. And the same goes with her. She heard certain things and she sees certain things. And so we had this back and forth. But it, I'm not going to say because we were from a ghetto and all that stuff, like that's part of ghetto living. Like I am old enough now to go back at certain things, reflect back at certain things, and say, you know what, my behavior wasn't right. I shouldn't have done certain things. I still chalk it up to being just young and stupid at the time. Like somebody like me today, if I had that mindset that I have today, then times it would have been a whole different thing. But I was growing myself, I was learning, I was just young and immature. So I really do apologize for some of the things that I kind of behaved the way how I did with certain things. Right? I didn't have the growth and the experience. So yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I could understand as, when you're able to, have this relationship, you obviously had two children with her. So I could understand that, you did love her and it's a part of relationships. It's a part of building. And as you mentioned, you were both young. So I can see, that there could have been a lot of different factors that were involved. Um, but when you left to come to Canada, how was your relationship with the children at that time?
So my uh, dear mother had a job where she had to go to work. I had a job where I had to go to work too. And so sometimes it's left to our family members to babysit. And, and when time with the kids, all right? And I myself eventually kind of stopped working. And so when I had stopped working, I did all of the babysitting, especially because Randy, I'll call him Randy because that's what I affectionately call him. Randy would normally he don't eat, and all he wanted was his mother's breast. So even if as soon as I get up in the morning and I make porridge and he would drink his porridge, but Randy would take to piss and then he won't eat anything. And then he won't eat anything until his mom gets home and then he feeds on her. All right, so he breastfeeds. So he would do this all the time. So it's something that I'm accustomed to. We used to always hope that, some days like, yeah, this child needs to eat, but you can't have him eat when he doesn't want to eat. All right, so no matter how I might think I'm making a nice meal, yeah, that's not his thing. Only if he feels like he wants to eat something, he'll eat, but mostly. So I spend a lot of time um, babysitting, and then when the mom comes home from work, then she gets them, and I would head out on the road, basically. So my relationship, it didn't really last a long time. 18 months, it sounds short on paper, right? But there's still a lot of days that makes it 18 months. So I had a great time, a wonderful time, a blessed time. I was happy just knowing that, yeah, these are my sons. And then I had to leave to, to migrate to Canada. And I left with that mindset that everything I do is going to be for the betterment of myself. Like sending down gifts and clothing and bike and all that stuff was just a sort of, it wasn't the ultimate thing. It wasn't the most gratifying thing. Yes, you're making your kids look good and have certain things, right, coming from that abject poverty, right? But that wasn't my driving force. Like my driving force wasn't to send them things. My driving force was to get myself situated in Canada and then get them up to Canada. And once they come to Canada, I'm saying whatever Canada has to offer them, they will eat that up and do what they're going to do with their life. And that to me would have been or was the ultimate goal for them to enjoy that life.
Okay. And so when you actually did end up coming to Canada and you were here, was like, were you able to connect with them as often as you would like? Or was it just I mean it is hard when you come here, it's hard in Canada. It's not as easy as, we would like to think, but how was the connection when you actually were here now and you were separated from them?
So at the time where we were living, there wasn't no real phone service. So people might not understand that living in Canada, because phone is everywhere. And back in the days, there was cell phone, but cell phone was for the privileged few. So there was a lot of landline, right? So there was no landline that ran in the area where I live. But there was, we call it a bandura phone line, where people were able to make calls to overseas, where you have somebody who would operate the phone yard, and and because I used to hang out in the phone yard before I migrated, um, immigrate to Canada. It was a little easier for me to tell somebody down by the phone yard to um, schedule a time so my sons could come to the phone and I get to talk to them. This wasn't this wasn't like a daily thing, you know, it was probably once a month, once every 2 months, something like that. Right. So I was able to talk to them, but I also would write them and send cards and like again like the money like those were the days like sending the money and other stuff like that. It was the connection, trying to establish or maintain a connection without communication. Like we didn't have the luxury to have a phone where you can pick up the phone every day and call and talk and do all that stuff. It was kind of different back then times. So we did the best we could. My son had they were they were a bit mature beyond their age. I mean, they were exposed to certain things. They they weren't the typical 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and a Canada comparison, right? These kids were a little bit ahead of the curve. So they kind of understood what I was. They, they understood everything. So when they get a chance to talk, they will just fill me in with as much things as they can say. And then we will do the hey, next time so and so will talk again, blah blah blah. Then they will tell me whatever their little stories were, and they both like to used to tell on each other. So, Daddy, this one is doing that, or Daddy, lie, that one is doing that. So, two boys, two young boys, they were best friends. So that's kind of understandable, and that's what I loved about them. They were inseparable. They didn't leave each other, and yeah, so even though they'll tattle on each other, it was just part of them. They never fought each other. You never hear that one is beating up the other. I'm saying? Yes, they will do a standoff here and there, but that's minor. These are we see it even in the animal world where a litter of kittens or puppies. You'll have that little aggression, but nothing physical. Because they love each other. So the relationship, to build the relationship, the thing like I said, I always love about my sons was that they had an understanding far beyond people in Canada could really appreciate. So we worked with what we had, and yeah, that's how it went.
Nice. Great. So talk to us about their, like, what, talk to us about Randall. Like, tell us about him. Tell us about, you know, who he was as a young boy.
So so um, Randall had a different personality, obviously, than Edward. So there's things that I always believe that he was kind of the more serious one, if I could say that. Like he kind of sees things and analyzes things a different way than his brother. So he he's a person who who had a different type of than say his brother. Like he didn't really take too kindly to people unless he kind of knows you, all right? And
his brother was more the outgoing child. So Randy was more withdrawn. His brother was more outgoing. So if you, as a stranger, come around them, when when Tigo would go up to you and talk to you, or you know, make movements towards you that are friendly gestures, that's not Randy. He's not gonna do that. You, he has to put his shell down. He has to kind of get a understanding of you, or he has to feel something about you for him to kind of let you in. He's more guarded, right? And that's his personality. Like how he got that, I couldn't tell you, right? Like, but that's just how he was. So, like, and you also have to understand, I spent probably about 18 months, 18 months. So, probably about, I think Randy was probably about 14 or 15 months when I left him in Jamaica. So that's as much as I knew him and his brother. And I was away from them for 5 years. So they developed their personality. Yes, I talked to them on phone and stuff like that. They developed their personality and through their experiences living in Jamaica. So when they were down there, they 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 did their thing. You know, they were surrounded by family members. They have aunts, uncle, nieces. They have grandmother. They have grandmother from two side. You know, they have Raquel's mother. They have Raquel's sister. So they have Aunt Raquel's brother. So they have aunts and uncle from that side. They have aunt and uncle from my side. So they were surrounded with family. They were well known who their father was. They were well known that way, and so it wasn't an issue for them to walk about probably about maybe about 8 to 10 minutes walk from their mother's home to my home where I live. It's on the same street because you could stand at my gate and look up to their mom's gate. And so even when they're walking back and forth, there would usually be an adult either on each side waiting for them to come down or go up, send them off up. So they kind of know how to traverse from place to place. So I know my sons, but most of my knowing wasn't physical because of that 5 year space. It was mostly over the phone. So yeah, even when they got to Canada, you know, I was getting to know them type thing too.
Okay. So when they came to Canada, that was the first time you had saw them since you left them. Was that the first time you saw them when they came to Canada? That was the first time you saw them since you had left? I'm not sure if you could hear me, but I can't hear you.
Hello?
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear? Are you able to hear?
Hello?
Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Because I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm gonna come off the headphone because can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now, but I wasn't hearing you. So I don't know if it's the headphones, the earpods.
Well, I could hear you now. As long as you could hear me, then we should be good.
Yeah, I took out the earpods, so I don't know what was going on there.
Okay. But you could hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so I was just when they came to Canada, that was the first time you had seen them since you left.
hmm
So talk
Repeat.
so when you left and they came to Canada, that was the first time you had saw them.
Yeah, when they came to Canada, that was the first time I saw them in over 5 years.
So tell us how that experience was when did you meet them at the airport? Like bring us through that whole scenario.
So, like, when I eventually went and bought the tickets for them to come up, like, I was trying to tell their aunt not to let them know what was going on. I wanted this to be the biggest surprise of their life. So I can distinctively remember Jamaica was in the World Cup at the time. So this was in 1998 World Cup, and Jamaica was involved in the World Cup, and they were in the summer of 1998, so around July, August, the World Cup was going on, and the plans were finally finalized that okay, it's time to move them up to Canada. So all of this was hush hush, not to let them know anything, and till last minute. So when last minute came around now, and they were told that they're leaving, and this was relayed to me, right? So this is hearsay. So they were ecstatic that they're going abroad. So my sister, who was taking care, and
Are you still there?
the lady to the right, she was the one that, because she was down there on vacation, so she was the adult that accompanied them to Canada, to Toronto. So when they arrived, I, I could see them come in. They don't know what their father looked like because they haven't seen him in a long time. So they don't know what their father looked like. So I'm there with a camera saying I'm gonna give them the surprise of their life. So when they're coming through I call it now immigration, after they cleared immigration and everything, they're coming up that little passageway. And if you look good in the picture, you could see that little passageway, the lady pushing a cart with her luggage on it, and I'm um, standing behind like a column with my camera. And as soon as they got close up to me, I stepped out on them and I started taking pictures, the flashes going off and everything, and their eyes were like wide open, like, what's going on here? So then they screamed out, "Daddy, daddy, daddy!" And yeah, like the excitement was next level. I'm not too sure. I could be wrong, but I believe my mother from Jamaica was here. I'm not, I don't remember, but when when we first met up and everything like that, it's like they were screaming, you know, and they were just so happy. They were ecstatic. I was proud, the happiest moment of my life. I'm reuniting with my kids. It's been a long time coming. There's a lot of hard work that went into getting status, getting going through all kind of stuff to get that paper. I mean, anybody who have ever taken that paper journey overseas, whether it's in Canada, England, or America, can testify that a lot of the times it's not an easy road getting them papers. But yeah, it was overwhelming. So when they got here and we eventually cleared out through the airport and they had 1,000 stories to tell me, we loaded up into the car and the girl that had brought them up, I promised her a lift to take her to her apartment building. And on the way there, because they had built a little relationship, a little rapport with her, they were just talking off. They were going back and forth, bantering back and forth, them and the girl. I was driving, so I sort of was focused on the road ahead and everything. I still look around and stuff like that, and I could see the happiness and the hope and the promise in their face. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that are gonna go on now. This is it, you know. So I drop off the girl. We stayed a little bit at her apartment building. I think we went up into her apartment, stayed a little bit with her, and then embarked back to the car, and we were on our way to Scarborough. And when we got to Scarborough, I think we were rounding around 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, and we took their little stuff in their bags. Plus, I had stuff waiting for them. You know, we had bought a bunk bed, but because we were living in a one-bedroom apartment at the time, their bed was in a box leaning up against the wall, and I think we had an additional mattress. I think it was the bunk bed mattress, but they slept on the bed that the adults slept on, and I hung out in the living room and stuff like that. And the girl at the time, she was pregnant, so yeah, we talked that night, and eventually they fell asleep. And when they fell asleep, um, I think I took a picture of them sleeping that night. I believe that picture is on the slideshow there, where they were exhausted, and it was just so gratifying, satisfying to finally see them in my presence. And I was just looking at them with amazement, like so proud to see them lying there and say, yeah, this is the beginning of the promise. You know, I had promised that I'm gonna get them to Canada, and that was one part that I accomplished. The other part was for all that hopes and dreams and everything that is to be offered to them. You know, I'm gonna do my best to provide it for them. So yeah, like it it was one of the most happiest, overwhelming night of my life. Just to know I'm beaming in pride that yeah, one mission accomplished. They're finally here.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of it went into bringing them up. So I can imagine the excitement that they are experiencing. And so in the days that passed after they got settled and everything, um,
I'm
they
sorry. One second, Miss Ellie. I'm sorry. You're breaking up. And so I'm gonna try see if I can get back this Bluetooth to work because I don't understand why. Let's see. Yeah. Hello?
hey, can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Technology.
So let me know
Yeah.
if you can.
I can hear you, but the problem I'm having is you're choppy and you're breaking up, so I can't get to hear your question properly.
What about now?
I can hear you, but as soon as you start talking, it gets choppy. But go ahead and let me see if I can hear the question.
So I wanted to ask about when they started to get settled, after some time. Um, how did they feel when they were, getting used to being here in Canada?
As far as I know, they weren't having any difficulty adjusting. Um, for them, they had each other. So, and I was a person at the time, never wanted them to be like too out there. Like I'll take them to people I know, and on the apartment that we lived on, there was not too many people that I kind of dealt with, right? There was a one lady a couple doors down the road, down the hallway, who had some boys, right? So at sometimes when they get a chance, they'll be in the hallway playing with the boys, and yeah, they really weren't, as far as I know, having any difficulty adjusting, right? They were in somewhere where they had a father that they knew. The stepmother, she she kind of knew them. Well, she knew them long before because they spoke to her many times and stuff like that when they were living in Jamaica and everything like that. And when they came to Canada, that's the presence they were in. So I didn't see any signs of them having any difficulty adjusting. Like they're boys, and boys are kind of different from girls. Like boys are more rambunctious, and again, as I said, they have each other, so they played a lot of games with each other, and yeah, they made a lot of noise, which is understandable, So yes, sometimes because the stepmother was pregnant, yeah, sometimes she couldn't handle the noise. So I would tell them like, hold it down, explain to them why they should hold it down, and they understood. But again, as I said, they're boys, so they might calm down for 2 seconds and then they're back to being boys, two little boys, just inventive in their own mind, doing their thing. So yeah. I didn't see any difficulty there. They had just come, so yeah, there was no issue. We were on the road a lot, um, all over the place, because it was November and it was getting close to December. Like December was close by, because I think they came. My memory served me right. I think they came around the 27th of November or something like that. So late down in the month, and and so it was mall and Santa Claus and those type of things, activities that were going on. So I didn't see any difficulty in their adjustment period.
Okay. So what about the relationship between you and their stepmom the time when they came down? How was that?
So my relationship and this with between me and their stepmother wasn't like when they weren't here in the early part of the relationship, there was some difficulties. We thought we knew each other, and when you live with people, you eventually find certain things out, right? But it was something that there was a bigger picture and something that because a lot of times I will take responsibility and say my behavior is probably what caused anything. So as a compromise, I try to work on myself. All right. So yes, we had a couple toxic parts in our relationship, but once we got over that hurdle, there wasn't anything like that. I got myself in trouble. Um, she was there to assist me when I got myself in trouble. And she had explained that, she's just not going to give up on me and she's not going to let me, get sent back home because I got myself in trouble. So I went through a certain legal process, and because she was there, they recognized that at the time they could resolve the issue without me being um, criminalized or convicted of a crime. So I got that legal issue straightened out, and again, as I'll say, there was a little difficulties in the early part, but after I got over those issues, our relationship wasn't really toxic after that. I did what I'm supposed to do as a husband. I did the manly duties and stuff like that. I got into situations where I would say to her that there's just certain things I'm not doing. Like I won't take you guys to the mall. I'm not taking no females to the mall. I'm not going shopping with you guys, because the problem with you guys when you go shopping is it seems like you don't know what you want. You start off by saying I'm gonna go get a handbag, and next thing you know, you're 2 hours in the mall. And so I never enjoyed that part. So I used to just tell her to grab your sister and go wherever you guys are going. Like, I'm fine. I'll chill out at home or I'll go do something else. So did we have the perfect relationship? No, but she was a person at the time who was really trying, you know, and I was a handful, so yeah. So yes, we had our ups and downs. And as I said, in the early part of the relationship and to the type of lifestyles and stuff like that, sometimes it wasn't conducive to relationships. But we got that all straightened out in a way, and I kind of changed as a person and sort of started to looking ahead. So yeah, she helped, I helped. We worked together as a team, and yeah, she was the one who was was able to facilitate me getting my documentation in Canada.
Nice. And so she welcomed the boys then when they came from Jamaica.
As far as I saw, yes.
That's good. And you mentioned that she was pregnant too. So you guys were expecting a child together?
Yes, she was pregnant with my child, and when they came, she was probably about, she had baby in April. So April, the 4th month. So 2 more months, 6. So she was around 3 months, 3 to 4 months pregnant. So this was her first child she was pregnant with. So um yeah, she was, I could say, like, a doting woman, because she had some little difficulties with the pregnancy thing, and to finally get pregnant, my belief was this was the most important thing to her.
For sure. Okay, and so everything was going nicely. Children were like, I guess they started to get enrolled in school and everything. And, you know, did they end up having a good relationship still, or keep well in touch with their mom and their other family members back home?
Yes, if it's one thing I try to do is to make sure that their how do you call it now, their base of support, like as they just came to Canada, they're coming to two individuals that they sort of know, but they don't know. So it's a learning environment for everyone. So I made sure some stability link-wise was still there for them. So they were able to keep in touch, like they spoke to their mom, they spoke to their aunt, um, whatever family member I had up here, and friends, I sort of had them kind of bringing them into the environment to help them with their transition. So I didn't see any problem with their transition, because they sort of, in my eyes and my knowledge, knew that where they were they were safe and secure. They, again, as I said, like there is so much pictures that was taken of my children over that short space of time. Countless pictures. This is just a couple of the pictures that we're able to find, because if it's one thing I was doing also was make sure that pictures were sent to Jamaica, just to let everyone that are in Jamaica see, their progress. So you can see, like, a difference with, in the short space of time when they came, and how they were progressing. Like a couple of these pictures that what you look on, it's like me, most of the time I'm the one behind the camera. So I'm taking their pictures, and I'm like getting them out so they can see and experience new things.
Mhm. which is great. It's important. I'm sure they appreciated that. And so it's important for, for us to share our stories, and I appreciate you coming on and deciding that you wanted to talk about the story. But what was it that, made you decide that this was now the time to come and to start talking about what what happened?
So again, as I said in the beginning, there's a lot of things said, reported, and presented out into the public eye where was very sensational. And I believe that this was done in an attempt to vilify myself and to make it seem like I'm a heartless person who cared not about my children, and that I stood up or stood there and what certain things happened to them. Now, when I get into part two, I will elaborate more and share more with the public so they can get an understanding. And all I would ask people to do for now is just open your hearts. And I know that it's hard to break down the walls that have been built up emotionally in everybody's head and heart and how they view this story. But I am gonna attempt to show people or give people perspective that if they just be objective for the time and listen and hear me out, right? Then they will get a full understanding, because what was told was a one-sided story. And the story was driven by a media that was like today's generation would say they're doing it for likes. You know what I'm saying? So whatever was done for whatever profit would have been able to generate off a Black tragedy. And I'm here to enlighten people and set the record straight, and just hope that they can open their heart and take in and absorb what I'm saying and then process it. Mind you, be critical with your thinking, because that's what the Most High gives you. Like, be critical with thinking, because the thing is, people hear something and they don't question, they don't try to find out the source, what's the bias, what's the motives, stuff like that, why people would do certain things. So for me, if given a chance, this is what I want people to do. Sit back, listen. I'm going to present what I can present, and just remember, like, at the end of the day, I'm the one in Canada. It is said you're innocent until proven guilty. But from day one, I knew I was guilty and I have to prove my innocence. And this is something I had said on my second video tape interview that I gave to the police. So stay tuned. I just want everybody to listen for what's coming for the next time I talk to you. And because there is so much that people need to learn and people need to understand, because if it happened to me, it could happen to any one of you guys. And I'm saying, when you wear the coat that I wear, which is Black and Jamaican, you wouldn't want to be in my shoes, and I wouldn't want none of you guys to be in my shoes. Like, yeah. So yeah, I'm sharing my story, and I think it needs to come from my mouth and not from all those other sources. They have been tried for over 25 years to keep me silent. They imprisoned me for over 21 years, almost 22 years. I mentally. They did a number on my mental state of mind. I wish they had done it to me physically, because you can heal from those wounds, but it's kind of be a while to heal from the mental wounds that was delivered onto me. So again, if you allow me, when we get a next chance to talk, I will elaborate some more and go into details about the next phase of this conversation.
Right. And that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm sure everybody is looking for, some questions to be answered. But most importantly, like you said, we have to be able to give you the opportunity to tell us exactly, your story, and share some understanding with us, and then for us to sit back, listen, and then ask some questions if there are questions that present itself. I definitely have some more questions, so that's why we decided we're going to do the first series. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story here with us. We look forward to part two of this special edition of What's the One with our guest Edward Dooley.
And I hope I'll be able to have better ability to hear and speak more clearly, because technology sometimes is just darn outrageous. When it's supposed to work, sometimes it just doesn't. So I'm not a technician who can just quickly fix these things, but yeah.
All right. Well,
So thank you very much. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Miss Ellie, and looking forward to continue this conversation.
Right. No problem. Okay, guys. So that is it for part one of the 411 with our special guest. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you guys share this video with others, and get yourselves ready for part two. Definitely going to make sure that you are well aware of when we're going to be putting out a part two. We're going to have our guests come back and dig a little bit deeper with some more questions on Randall Dooley. Okay. Thank you guys again, and take care, and we'll see you soon.